Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Weather Live Weekly Outlook, the first one of the new year. And I want to start this one off by wishing you a happy new year. Hopefully, everything's going well so far. I know it's early, but we've got to keep thinking on the bright side of things. Weather-wise, if you're a winter weather lover, you're going to love what I have to tell you and show you during this short weather update, focusing on the next week and a half to 2 weeks ahead as we go full blown into a midwinter pattern that looks like it's going to have some huge implications for much of the central and eastern United States. So let's go ahead and get into this. We'll start you with the current look at the satellite perspective, and already seeing that next storm system making its way into portions of the lower Rocky Mountains. You can see that low pressure very evident here across northern portions of New Mexico. That's going to dive to the southeast and sweep across portions of the southern United States and then up the east coast, where they do have some watches and some advisories, even some winter storm warnings for that current storm. And then just beyond that, just outside your purview on the satellite, we have another but more powerful storm that's going to be paying a visit for us here early next week. And then there's one beyond that that could be even stronger. So we'll get to the details here coming up here in just a couple of moments. Take a look at the jet stream pattern that is in fact making this all possible. Last week we talked about how we had the two branches of the jet stream, the southern branch and the northern branch, and how eventually they'd be coming together. They'd be forming a unified westerly jet. And typically when that happens, you have larger storms, and that typically drags the cold air all the way down into the lower 48s as well, giving rise to the potential for major winter storms. That's what we've got coming up. Currently, you can see that first area of low pressure. It's still kind of cut off from the mainstream. This is the southern branch across the southern Rockies, so not a ton of cold air associated with that, but enough perhaps to cause some issues. And then we have a lot of jet stream energy behind that we're going to be addressing during this update. All right, let's take a look currently at the advisories that we do have out there, and we do have a number of them. I'll start you in the southern Rockies with the higher elevations across the of northern New Mexico, I should say. Those are winter storm warnings where they're expecting somewhere in the order of 6 to 12 inches of snow. Higher peaks could see more than that. In the purple, these are winter weather advisories across the heartland. We also have a winter weather advisory across the Bitterroots of northern Montana and Idaho, as well as the Arrowhead of Minnesota. And out here, that is actually a winter storm watch for portions of the Appalachians, also portions of New England. And that's for the storm that's now making its way out of the southern Rockies. So let's take a look at this on the GFS. And I tell you what, the GFS came in hot today, and it's been showing some signs of aggression, especially once we get about a week out. So we're going to take you to the current storm. You're seeing that eject out here over the next 24 hours. By tomorrow, again, most of the snow relegated to the central plains, portions of Kansas, maybe into northern Oklahoma. It's not got a lot of cold air with it. As mentioned, it's not connected with the northern branch of the jet stream, so that's going to be problematic. That just brings some very light precipitation across the Ohio Valley, mainly just some light rain for the lower Ohio Valley, but that low pressure makes its way across the Gulf Coast and then into the southeast, and then there will be enough cold air aloft, so that's where they're thinking the Appalachians could receive some decent snows out of that deal, and perhaps even into portions of New England, but that's very questionable. All the models haven't really shown this strength of a nor'easter, which it would be. But if this occurs, heavy snowfall for portions of Boston, Hartford, maybe even New York City. We'll watch that. And then beyond, here comes the second storm. This is the one that's currently located across the Pacific northwest coast, making its way onshore towards British Columbia. This one's stronger. This one's going to pull down more cold air, and look at that low pressure as it rips right up from the southern plains through the Ohio Valley into the eastern Great Lakes, where you're going to have a potpourri of weather. This one, if it's as strong as it's being shown here, which is about a 982 millibar low near Cleveland, Ohio, this will be on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. That would bring quite a bit of wind with it. Where do the snow bands line up? Right now, it looks like more of a classic cutter style storm to me, which puts Chicago in play, Detroit in play, northern half of Indiana, much of Michigan. So we'll see how that pans out in time. You could have some stronger thunderstorms ahead of that across the southeast where you see this convection, the brighter colors there. So that's also something we'll be watching for. This is for storm number 2, arriving here by Tuesday and into Wednesday of next week. Behind that one, we have a weak little ripple of low pressure about a week out, and then the floodgates open. According to the GFS forecast model here, this would be a huge storm. It's bringing up a low way deep. That's the southern branch coming out of Texas and then merging with the northern branch. So this would be a prolonged period of precipitation. It would be all rain for the southeast, but you can see that divide line is very thin right along the Ohio River. It looks like it's where you go from rain to snow. Hey, keep in mind, this puppy's about 9-10 days out. But it is something we are definitely watching. A scenario such as this could produce just very large snow amounts, I would say, if you get a 24, 36-hour snowfall from a storm like that. Beyond that, it shows plenty of cold air on the GFS. So, okay, week and a half out, take it with a grain of salt, right? Well, yeah, but what I would say is that we have enough variables in place. We know that there's going to be a chunk of cold air invading the lower 48s out of Canada. That's going to bring the northern branch of the jet stream south, where it can merge with the southern branch, and that typically brings lots of energy this time of the year. So I do believe we're going to see energetic storms across the eastern United States here about a week and a half from now. The question, of course, will be the exact placement of those storms. All right, with that being said, that was the GFS. Let's give you the Europeans' offering of the same scenario. European model not going out quite as far as the GFS, but let's take a look at what it has to say before we wrap this one up. And we start with the current storm. Again, same type of a scenario. There is going to be some snow, some heavier snows for the northern Rockies with the current storm. High pressure slides across the eastern United States. That current storm, again, because it's lacking cold air, doesn't have a lot of snow on the north side. It does pick up a little bit of energy as it moves up the east coast, perhaps some nor'easter characteristics. If this occurs, I would expect more watches for portions of the northeast. So again, the European model, in line with the GFS, I would expect they would be issuing winter storm watches for portions of New England and the mid-Atlantic for a potential nor'easter. Again, this is short term, coming up here by late Saturday and into the day on Sunday. Get that one out of here. The next storm, again, this is the one making its way onshore the British Columbia coast right now, and that shows a pretty classic cutter-style storm, although there is a bit of a transfer of energy from east to west, but that could put some heavy snowfall for portions of the Rust Belt and into the central Great Lakes. I'd be looking out for a pretty good storm with that one. That one could have some wind with it, some wraparound snow showers for the Ohio River Valley. That'd be Tuesday night and into the day on Wednesday. We get a reprieve. There's a front that moves through midweek, or make that around Friday, and then you see that next storm. Again, not exactly in agreement with the GFS as far as placement of the low, but they do both show a very sizable storm and more cold air invading the lower 48. So I think that is important to note. With that being said, this is the European, this is the ensembles I like to look at. It's basically, they take the European model and all 51 variants of it. There's a lot of them. And they take the averages here. And you're not seeing P-type. You're seeing precipitation over I think, 850 temperatures is what we're looking at here. And so we start with the storm Tuesday, significant storm. But again, we think that the main snow track with that one's going to be to the north across the Midwest and the central Great Lakes. Mainly just rain for the East Coast with that particular storm. Then behind it, that's where we have more variables, more question marks. It shows a frontal passage here next Thursday, Friday, and then what comes up behind it is going to be a real question. The ensembles are showing that 850 line pretty close to where the GFS had that on its last run. So the 850, the zero line, right across the Ohio River, and then that's where we're going to see, again, the potential for a significant low pressure to form across the southeast and scoot to the northeast. So The European ensembles giving some credibility to the current run of the GFS, which again is showing a gangbuster storm about a week and a half from now. Now, of course, you can't have winter weather if you don't have cold. Right now, we're kind of going in between. These are temperature anomalies at the 850 level, or about 4,500 feet above us, showing you've got sharp pockets of warmth, and then cold, and then warmth, and then cold. We're coming out of quite a warm period for much of December, but now as we head on into the middle of the month, you see all that cold sliding down the spine of the Rockies, and look at those purples there. You can't miss that. That's true Arctic air set to make its way into the United States. It looks like during the middle of the month, so about the same time frame here, a week and a half out, that we're looking at the potential of winter storms. It's looking more and more likely that the cold will be available for much of the region for this reason. With that being said, yes, I think things are going to get very interesting here as we head on into next week and into the middle portions of the month. So we'll continue to monitor the situation. Hey, if you got something out of this video, be sure to like it and be sure to share it. In the meantime, my friends, stay warm, stay blessed, and we'll talk to you again soon.